It was a quiet Christmas Eve in the sleepy town of Evergreen Hollow. The children had long since hung their stockings and gone to bed, and snow fell gently from the sky, blanketing the world in pristine white. But amidst the stillness, something extraordinary was stirring in the town square, where only days ago there had been an empty patch of frozen ground. Frosty the snowman reappeared, his magical hat perched proudly atop his head. The magic that had once brought him to life had returned, stronger than ever. But Frosty wasn't just alive. He was different. There was an energy crackling in his snowy core, a spark of something new. As Frosty gazed at the sparkling lights strung across the square, he noticed a group of children's abandoned snowmen, half finished and scattered around the park. Feeling an overwhelming sense of loneliness, he raised his stick like arms and willed the magic inside him to flow outward. "Let's make some friends," he chuckled, his voice echoing in the icy air. To his astonishment, the snow around him began to shimmer and quake. Slowly, one by one, the snowmen began to move. First their stick arms wiggled, then their coal eyes blinked to life. In no time, a dozen little snow beings stood before Frosty, looking up at him with curiosity and awe. "Ho-ho! Well, isn't this a Christmas miracle?" Frosty declared, clapping his snowy hands. "Welcome to the world, my frosty friends." But these new snow beings were not quite like Frosty. While he was cheerful and kind, they seemed mischievous. One small snowman poked another, who immediately retaliated by throwing a snowball. Another began toppling over Christmas decorations, giggling with a raspy little laugh. Before Frosty could stop them, the snow army had spread out across the town square, causing a snowy ruckus. Now, that's not very jolly behavior," Frosty called, chasing after a particularly naughty snowman who was trying to climb a lamppost. "Come back here." But the snow beings were having too much fun. They pelted each other with snowballs, skated across frozen ponds, and tugged at the strings of Christmas lights until they snapped. One particularly bold snowman even leapt into a sleigh filled with presents and sent it careening down the street. Soon the commotion woke the townspeople. Lights flickered on in houses, and windows opened to reveal sleepy-eyed families peering out. At first, they marveled at the animated snow beings frolicking in the square. But as the chaos grew, their smiles turned to frowns. "Look at the mess they're making," shouted Mr. Hargrove, the owner of the town bakery, as a snowman rolled into his carefully decorated display window. "They're ruining Christmas. They're out of control," cried Mrs. Plimpton, clutching her pearl necklace as two snow beings began using her porch as a makeshift ice rink. The crowd grew angrier, and soon someone shouted, "We have to stop them." Frosty overheard the growing unrest and felt a pang of guilt. This was not the joy and wonder he had hoped to bring. His creations had good hearts. They just didn't understand the spirit of kindness and togetherness. And it was up to him to teach them. Frosty took a deep breath, snow swirling around him. He raised his arms again, this time not to create but to command. "Gather around, my frosty friends." he bellowed, his voice firm but warm. The snow beings froze mid-chaos and slowly shuffled back to the square, their heads hung low. They might not have been able to speak, but their coal eyes were filled with remorse. "You've got so much energy, so much life," Frosty said, kneeling down to their level. "But being alive isn't just about having fun. It's about bringing joy to others, about sharing in the magic of the season." The snow beings listened intently as Frosty continued. "Look around you. Christmas is a time for togetherness, for helping and caring, not for breaking and scaring." One small snowman, who had been particularly rambunctious, tugged on Frosty's arm and gestured toward a toppled Christmas tree. "Ah, now that's the spirit," Frosty said. "Come on, everyone, let's set things right." Under Frosty's watchful eye, the snow beings began to fix their messes. They re-strung the Christmas lights, rebuilt snow forts for the children, and even delivered the scattered presents back to the sleigh. The townspeople, initially hesitant, began to help, and soon laughter and carols filled the air once more. By the time dawn broke, the square was more beautiful than ever. The townsfolk stood together, marveling at the decorations and at the magical snow beings who had turned their mischief into holiday cheer. Frosty, his hat tipped jauntily to one side, smiled proudly at his frosty friends. "You've all learned what it means to have Christmas spirit," he said. "I couldn't be prouder." As the first rays of sunlight hit the snow beings, they began to melt, their coal eyes closing peacefully. Frosty stood silently, tipping his hat in farewell. But he didn't feel sad. He knew they'd be back, just as he would, when the snow returned next Christmas. And as for the townsfolk, they'd never forget the night Frosty's snow army reminded them of the true meaning of Christmas. That even the coldest beings can warm the heart.